What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today I want to answer a question people have been asking me in the comments and also on Discord. And that question is, Wraec, why have you built Star Alchemist Holmes Young as your first Destiny rank 6 here? You can see he is Nirvana. I've been having quite a lot of fun with him actually. And further than that, why not LFA? Because we have a nice LFA, obviously. I care for Flame Shrine, I care for Star Expedition, we have a beautiful copy of him. And still, I decided to go for Star Alchemist Holmes Young, who is mostly a PvP hero, I guess. So, to give you the short answer, LFA's Destiny transition skill is quite boring and not that strong. But why is that the case? To answer that question, we have to talk about what Destiny rank 6 is and how Destiny transition skills work and which ones of them are particularly strong and which ones aren't, and how you can find out whether or not a specific hero has a strong Destiny transition skill or not. So let's look at a Destiny transition skill. First of all, Destiny rank 6 is called Nirvana. It is the last Destiny rank that a hero can achieve. And by itself it grants 6 divine power compared to Polystar, which only grants 5. And then of course you have to add the divine power from the temple on that. That's why you just saw that my Destiny rank 6 Star Alchemist Holmes Young has a divine power of 12. Because there are another 6 from temple, obviously. So why is Destiny rank 6 so special? Well, obviously it's the last node, so it gotta be something special. And the way it is designed is on the first Destiny rank, you actually get your Destiny skill, your transition skill, and you get your way of getting transition power. And this skill basically stays the same up until Destiny rank 6. You only add those pivot nodes, and those include certain effects that also trigger at the same time your Destiny transition skill triggers, and grant some extra stuff that happens. You can get some extra damage out of it, you can get some buffs out of it, some debuffs for the opponent, all of that is possible. And they trigger every time this triggers. And then on Destiny rank 6, this skill actually gets enhanced. And the way DH enhances those skills is quite different from hero to hero and can make quite the difference. And we'll look at this. So first of all, we'll have to understand what this Destiny transition skill really does. Let's read it. After releasing active skills, that is our condition for it to trigger, if self owns 12 or above layers of transition power, consumes 12 layers of them. So we now know we need to have 12 layers, and those layers are consumed once our active skill is triggered. Not every transition skill consumes the Destiny transition layers. And that is a huge difference if you think about it. Because once those are consumed, we have to regain them before triggering our transition power again. Our transition skill, of course, that is. And then we activate our effect. And this effect is we deal 2000% attack damage to enemies in the same position with 50% chance to inflict fear, Vessel Gaze on them for 3 rounds. And then, of course, all our pivot nodes that we decided on trigger as well. 12 layers of transition power are not that easy to get. It means we'll either have to do 4 basic attacks or we'll have to do 2 active skills. Oftentimes you will go for the active skill version because, well, it's LFA, it is a boss damage dealer, and oftentimes you will create a surrounding where you have a full energy feed. So then every second active skill, this skill triggers, so 0.5 times per round, or every second round you could say it triggers. And if we take a look at this enhanced version of this skill, we have, after releasing active skills, that's the same. A self owns 12 or above layers of transition power, consumes 12 of them, that's the same, so the cost is the same, and the amount of skills we can trigger is also the same. It's 0.5 times per round, or 1 time every second round. And what we get is dealing 1500% of attack damage to all enemies 2 times, which is a massive increase, because 2 things here actually change. Well, 3 things. We have 1500%, that used to be 2000% before, but we now deal it 2 times, so really it is 1000% more. And we no longer deal it to 1 enemy, we deal it to all enemies. So massive damage increase in that sense. If you are looking at a PvP situation with 6 enemies, you basically enhanced your damage not only by the 50% that you put on there, but then of course 6 times the amount of enemies that you hit. That is a massive damage increase. But the question is, how good is that really in terms of dealing damage to bosses? If you think about the Star Expedition boss, for example, well, there is only one enemy really, so hitting all enemies now doesn't really help us. So for the intended purpose of LFA, which is dealing damage to bosses, it's not even that great really. The only thing that is of course better is we go from dealing 2000 to dealing 3000% of damage, 50% damage increase for a Star Expedition situation. And then we have the same, we have 100% chance, so the double chance to inflict Fear Abyssal Gaze, which is nice. And we'll also reduce the attack by 50%, which is quite a good amount. But overall, I mean, in the Star Expedition situation, we don't really care about the Fear Abyssal Gaze, we don't really care about the all enemies part. The reduced attack can be decent, but I don't think it will be game-changing for most. And, well, then we have really 1000% more damage here. And the same trigger rate of the skill. So it is a minor damage increase for the transition skill that we get from Destiny Transition, which is not really worthwhile in that sense. For PvP, he's not the greatest hero, so you will only not really see that as well. Also, this Destiny rank doesn't really unlock any additional gameplay options for him as well. He's not really that great with that. He doesn't really change. You will use him the same way, he will deal a bit more damage. So that is the thing. Let's compare that to Star Alchemist Holmes Young and what he can do, and why I think this is massively different. So first of all, the Destiny transition skill of our Star Alchemist Holmes Young is when any ally releases active skills, which, by the way, this wording includes himself. He is an ally of himself for this, so when he releases an active skill, this will trigger as well. Consumes 3 layers of transition power to poison 3 random enemies, dealing 1200% of attack damage for 3 rounds. Cannot release this skill without enough layers of transition power. So what we first notice is when any ally releases active skills, so we need allies that release active skills. If we consider the same situation as before with the full energy feed, well, we will need 2 active skills on the team to consume the 6 layers we will get by using active skills. So we already trigger this skill 2 times around, which is pretty decent, which is pretty nice. 2 times around, which also means we trigger all of those pivot skills here 2 times around. And what I noticed in the way the age balance steps, the pivot nodes often aren't a lot weaker when you can trigger the skill more often. A lot of the heroes that can trigger the skill way more often, you have to compare that here. We go from 0.5 times around on LFA to 2 times around on Star Alchemist Holmes Young. And still, the skills are pretty good. We see it already here. Additional damage equal to 1500% of attack. We have a 24% attack buff for highest attack. We have attack reduction by 15% for 3 random enemies, which we can of course combine with DGN. And we have a lot of options in here like this. And now, of course, I said we are looking at Destiny rank 6. We're not really analyzing the pivot nodes, but the perspective of that those skills are substantially weaker on a hero like Star Alchemist Holmes Young that can trigger them multiple times around, compared to an LFA that can't do that. That is important to know. So let's look at the Destiny rank 6 version now of the skill, and we'll see there is a difference. Let's look at it actually right here. So when any ally releases active skills, itself owns 3 or above layers of transition power, and we will already see there is something missing here. It is no longer consumes 3 layers, it is owns 3 layers. So we don't consume any layers of transition power with the first part of the transition skill. Again, we poison 3 random enemies, dealing 1200% of attack damage, which is the same as here. And then also we increase the dot on the targets by 20%, which caps at 5000% of Star Alchemist Holmes Young's attack. So if you could use that, this is already a massive increase. I mean, just adding up the numbers, which is a bit of an unfair comparison, but let's just do it for the sake of this. We go to 18,600 from 3,600 if you could really enhance the dot that way. Usually you will get the first part. The dot, you often don't get enough damage over time on the enemy to actually enhance it that far, but it is certainly an interesting perspective. Also, now, as we see, in a full energy feed situation where all 6 of our heroes do active skills, we can actually trigger that 6 times. Given we'll now find that also this has a few limits, because if self owns 12 or above layers of transition power, besides all effects of this, so we trigger this again, we will consume those 12 layers of transition power to increase our attack by 50%, holy damage by 50%, all damage reduction by 45% for 2 rounds, and will grant a shield equal to 50% of max HP, which is of course a massive shield, a massive attack boost, but we lose our layers of transition power, so further active skills from allies will no longer trigger this first part. So this limits our effectiveness with our skill a little bit. So if we look back at the situation we saw before with the full energy feed, considering he attacks first in a round, he would attack first, then we will get basically 1 turn full of active skills that trigger this, and then on the next turn he would attack again, do an active skill, gain another 6 layers, and then he would zero himself out by activating the second part of his effect, and then being basically his allies would not activate it in that round, but we would get it a 7th time. So within 2 rounds we will activate it 7 times. This is basically the standard, which means we go from activating it 2 times a round to activating it 3.5 times a round, which is still massive compared to the 0.5 times we saw at LFA. It's 7 times as much. So our our transition skill triggers 7 times as much, and so do all of our pivot nodes. The attack reduction and all of that good stuff triggers 7 times as much. And we don't not only have this situation on Star Alchemist Young, there are other heroes that work the same. I talked about this in my review on Star Swordsman Mockman, where we have the same thing. If self has 6 or more layers, no longer talking about the consumption again on the 12 layer version. If you look at BQA, I think has the same. Where is she actually? She's always hiding. She's always hiding. I think BQA has the same. When allies basic attack, yeah, exactly, has the same. And here is also something interesting, by the way, that we can point out. Here is when allies basic attack or active skill successfully hits a target. And if we look at the base node, it's only an active skill. So she also gains the ability to trigger on a basic attack, which is quite special and quite interesting that this happens here. But you can see how that is a difference. You should always look at how often you can trigger a destiny skill, really. Sometimes there are other factors that play into it. A very interesting hero for that is Mutated Fungus G-Star, who was a disappointment for most people, because if we look at it, when an ally's basic attack successfully hits a target, a classic hero for an energy feat, a classic hero for Flame Shrine energy feat, that only triggers his destiny skill on a basic attack that you will likely never see in a regular Flame Shrine team. So something like this really has an impact. So for once we look at the node power, we look at the skill power, and then also the frequency. And often this part, the frequency at which you can activate your destiny transition skill, this is a part that I see overlooked a lot. If it is on Discord or in some other form of reviews, if people look at those heroes, they often forget about this. How often can you really activate your skill? How well does this work? What requirements do you have to fulfill? And for example, now testing. What's this? Sabotage! Oh, that's the horrible thing. If you divert your soul power from heroes to other heroes, it actually refreshes in Void Thought. That's quite not nice, I have to say. But okay, we'll fix that later. One thing that I noticed that is not that nice and makes it a bit difficult. We actually have to get active skills. And one hero that really counters that is TBB. TBB reduces your energy to 0, so a lot of my heroes tend to do basic skills, which don't trigger his DT. So you now have to think about this type of thing. But it is a topic for itself. I just wanted to show you guys the reason for why I went for this. We'll certainly look at other heroes that behave similarly to Star Alchemist Young, because in my first testing, and you saw yesterday's video, you saw the live stream that we did, it is quite strong. It is basically exactly as I anticipated, I have to say. I told you as in the review that those skills that have a higher frequency will likely be stronger, and I saw that on Star Alchemist Young now, who's nuking with an insane damage. out-damaging anything I've seen before in the game, with notes like this, for example, 3000% attack damage, up to 3.5 times a round. On top of that, we have another 1500%, we have another 1500%, we have the 1200%, and if you look buff here, it's 1200% and 5000%. So we have all of this happening 3.5 times around, which is madness. So we will likely look at heroes that behave the same way. Obviously, the first hero that you guys said when I asked you about it, Star Swordsman Mogwin. Definitely very cool hero. We have the SSS copy. We are on the path to using it. I explained in the comments already. We still have to do some upgrading here, and not the X upgrade, which also has to be done, but that's another thing. You can see we need one more node here, actually 45,000 sublimation essence for the passive skill 3, so we'll have to wait for another event to do that. And he's also on level 102. Well, now he's level 104, and he has to go to 120 so that we can put DT on him. And once we do that, it will certainly be quite interesting, and I'm very happy to test him, and I hope you guys will be very happy too. And I hope we can destroy some stuff in PvP. I rerolled him already. We have some Twine immunity, we have skill damage, block, Twine immunity, Hunter's Focus. Decent roll, not too insane, very PvP roll. I really wanted GK Defire, Hunter's Focus, Twine immunity actually, but we have Hunter's Focus, Twine immunity and skill damage, which is very nice. Some block if you want to combine with HHA, so I don't mind this roll. It is a pretty good roll. Maybe we reroll it later. One of the things, by the way, that keeps me from actually posting a review of Star Alchemist Holmes-Young in PvP at the moment is, well, we don't really have Twine immunity, and we would really need that to compete in PvP, because as you saw just a second ago, people can bash my head in Void Horde with some TBBs, because my team is just not Twine immune, and he triggers obviously any enemy TBB that he hits, because he doesn't zero the energy. Well, despite it would not make any difference, they would still CC him, and that would be a bit horrible. So, anyway, I hope you understood the reasoning behind me choosing Star Alchemist Holmes-Young. It's really the stronger skill, it is more interesting, and I wanted to try it. So, with that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're still on the way to 10k, and I wish you a great day. I'll see us in the next one.